Hi, I'm from Straight Grain Patterns, and in this video I'll be talking about understitching. Understitching is a sewing technique in which you sew the lining of a garment on top of the seam allowance which is underneath it. You often see this at necklines. For instance, in this dress, you see a little stitch line running here near the neckline edge on the inside of the dress, but it's not visible on the outside. So it's not top stitched, it's understitched. The lining is sewn on top of the seam allowance underneath. Why do we do this? Why do we understitch necklines? Well, firstly, it'll make your garment prettier. It'll make sure that the lining is not visible at the outside of the dress. It won't pop up here because it's kept in place with these understitches. The second reason why you should really understitch your neckline is that it'll give you a lot of satisfaction. This is how professional seamstresses finish garments. So every time you'll get this, you look at your garment every time you'll get it out of the washer or you'll iron it or put it on, you'll see that little stitch line and you'll think, okay, that's a professionally finished garment right there. That's how I roll. You'll feel very satisfied and happy with yourself. So that's another reason to do this. How do you do it? Well, understitching is something we do right after we sewn the neckline, right? So right after you've sewn main and lining together at the neckline. As you can see, I have a little petal included here from the teeny dress pattern. You could also have like a Peter Pan collar or maybe a ruffle or whatever, but the technique is always the same, so that doesn't really matter. So what you'll do is you'll separate the main from the lining and you'll put the main on the right side or the left side. Yes, that's the left side. And the lining and the seam allowance too, as you can see, on the right side. You could also turn things upside down, do it this way, with the wrong side of the fabric up, but still also there, main on the left side and seam allowance and lining on the right side, right hand side. So I prefer to do it this way. And there's a few tricks you should really apply. Firstly, don't start stitching at the edge here, because when you install your zipper or whatever type of closure you'll be using, it'll get you into trouble. It will not make things look prettier. So start at about an inch or 3 centimeters or whatever from the edge, and you put your needle in the lining and the seam allowance, of course, at about 1/8 of an inch or 1 or 2 or 3 millimeters from the seam here. You start with the back tag and then you can go. And the first part is easy, it's straight on. But then comes the more difficult part, the edge. It's not difficult, it's just that here is where many people go wrong, including myself when I did this the first time. And what they do wrong is they move this side up, but they kind of leave this side hanging. The important trick is that you should always keep moving the entire thing up, that the two sides should be symmetrical. So this way, not that way, okay? So you just keep stitching. And once every while you check whether that seam allowance is still underneath, on the right side, not on the left side, underneath the lining. Okay, and then when you reach the end of the neckline, you also stop at about a good inch, a few centimeters from the edge here. You back tag, and that is all there's to it. Maybe a little tip, this technique is always a good idea, like I said, but it's especially important if you use something like a petal or a Peter Pan collar or a ruffle or whatever, because as you'll see, the seam allowance of the whatever you're adding will also push up the lining, will push it up even more. So there especially it's important to do understitching. And now of course you can reduce the seam allowance or clip it and just finish your garment as you usually would. Good luck!